Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
The town of Bismarck, North Dakota was facing 34-degree temperatures and snow was in the forecast. Not unusual for January 2nd, 2020. But what happened on that day, just outside the Bismarck city limits, was unusual. A 911 call came into the local police station. A distraught woman was on the other end of the line. Her house was on fire, and she needed help. The woman said she had arrived to her home in Bismarck after work, only to discover smoke. Smoke so thick she was unable to enter. She was worried that her husband was inside.
Okay, can you tell me exactly what happened?
I came out here to check. My husband sent a text message that he didn't come in today, and I've been sick 3 days, and so I'm coming here to check. And I walked in, I opened the door, and I walked in, and the house is smoky. I can't get in the door.
The woman quickly became inconsolable.
Nikki, I need you to calm down for me, okay? Nikki, what's your husband's name?
When the fire department arrived, they began to clear the house, room by room. In the back bedroom, they discovered the body of a man who was naked and dead on the floor. A shotgun was lying on the bed, a propane heater at the foot of the bed. This was a suicide case, open and shut. Or so they thought. This is Jillian, and in partnership with Law and Crime, you are listening to Court Junkie, episode 217. Investigators attempted to piece together 42-year-old Chad Entzel's final days. His co-workers at Interstate Power Systems, a diesel repair shop, were the first to raise an alarm over his well-being on January 2nd, 2020. The last time Chad was seen around Bismarck was a few days prior, on December 30th. He had gone to work like he normally would, and then headed over to the local bowling alley after his shift. This was a hobby of Chad's, bowling. He belonged to the local league and was always a friendly face at practice. But after the bowling meetup ended around 10 p.m. that Monday night, Chad wasn't seen or heard from ever again. In fact, the following day, on December 31st, he was scheduled for work. Coworkers recalled that his wife, Nikki Entzel, phoned the company to let them know Chad would be taking the day off. He was sick. His coworkers thought nothing of it. Chad, who had worked for the company since August of 2019, had never missed a day before. He was allowed to miss one. On January 1st, the business was closed to observe the new year. But then, on Thursday, January 2nd, once again, Chad was a no-show.
Did you or anyone in the office receive any calls regarding Chad on January 2nd?
We did not.
Did he come in to work as scheduled?
He did not.
So what happened then?
Myself and a few other employees made phone calls and texts to Chad, and none of us could get a hold of him. The phone would just keep ringing and ringing.
They tried to call Nikki to see if she knew what was going on with him.
I did get a hold of her, and the answer was very short. I was just asked if Chad was sick today. Have you heard anything from him? And she's like, no, I'm really busy right now. And that's about the extent of the conversation.
Chad's coworkers continued calling and texting him, but got no answer. They decided, before heading to lunch, that they would stop by his house. When they arrived, Chad's truck was in the driveway. Peering through the truck's window, they noticed a frozen water bottle. It had been below freezing temperatures the night before, and it was obvious the truck had not moved recently. They noticed that a new security system had been installed on the house, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. They looked inside the house windows but couldn't see anything, so they decided to head to lunch and wait. One coworker, who was a former member of law enforcement, placed a call to the local sheriff's department on the non-emergency line around 2 p.m. and asked if they would conduct a wellness check on Chad. Sheriff's deputies arrived at the house but found nothing concerning, so they left. Chad's supervisor, Cole Dennis, texted Nikki one more time. Did she know anything about Chad's whereabouts? Nikki said she was really busy at work, but would try checking up on him after her workday ended. Hours later, at 5:20 p.m., Nikki arrived at the house and then called the police to report a fire. About a week later, she was arrested for murder.
As they're all looking around and looking at the evidence, on the surface, it appears that it may be a suicide. People have committed suicide by shotgun before, and maybe an accidental fire because the propane tank heater was too close to the bed. That's what it appeared on the surface, but as they looked, things weren't adding up.
Burleigh County State's Attorney Julie Lawyer gave the opening statements for the prosecution. Nikki Entzel was facing charges of conspiracy to commit murder, tamper with evidence, and commit arson. It was September 27, 2022, 2.5 years since the body of Chad Entzel had been discovered in his home. Prosecutor Lawyer told the jury that although investigators initially suspected a suicide, they quickly realized that things weren't adding up. For one thing, there was not one, but 2 fires found in the house that day, and Chad had been shot twice, with a shotgun that seemed to be pretty far away from him up on the bed.
So deputies did a very thorough investigation in this case. You will hear a lot of evidence. Some of it may seem like it doesn't make sense at the time, but it all comes together because that's what the deputies had to do. Follow the trail of evidence and piece everything together to put a timeline in place to find out what really happened to Chad.
She said Nikki had 2 children from a previous marriage, both of whom were not home at the time of the fires. They were spending the week with their grandparents out of state. Investigators suspected Nikki was involved after interviewing her, after inspecting the scene more closely, and after discovering that she had moved out of the house and had been having an affair with a man named Earl Howard.
But what you will ultimately hear is that Nikki Sue Entzel was having an affair with Earl Howard. She and Earl were going to move to Texas. They were looking for homes in Texas, and she had a job interview scheduled down there within the next couple of weeks after the fire had occurred. She took out a renter's insurance policy for coverage of around $26,000 that was put in effect on December 27th, 2019. She then traveled to Minnesota to meet up with her boyfriend, Earl Howard, on December 27th or 28th of 2019. He was driving down from Canada. He picked her up in Minnesota, and they drove to Bismarck, where they stayed at the Staybridge Suites. They got in at about 1 o'clock in the morning on December 29th, 2019.
She said while Chad was at his bowling league on that Monday, Nikki and her boyfriend Earl went to the house so they could collect property of Nikki's and get it out of the house while Chad was gone. She said security cameras captured them, and then afterwards, the cameras were put into privacy mode.
They took a bunch of Nikki's belongings and the boys' belongings, and they took that back to the hotel. While they were there, between that 7 and 8:30 p.m. time frame, they grabbed the propane heater from the garage and put it in the house. They grabbed a shotgun from the bedroom, and they put that somewhere in the house. They got the shells for the shotgun, and they loaded the shotgun. And they left at approximately 8:30. They came back to the house on December 31st, 2019 at approximately 1 o'clock in the morning. Door sensors tell us that. And they left at approximately 3 o'clock in the morning. The last time anyone saw Chad Entzel alive was leaving bowling on December 30th, 2019 at approximately 10:30 p.m. Between 1 and 3 a.m. on December 31st, 2019, Chad Entzel was shot twice with a shotgun and left dead in the home with a fire started.
She said Nikki and Earl staged the bedroom to make it look like Chad died by suicide. They took one of the shotgun shells with them. They left out whiskey bottles to make it look like Chad had been drinking, and they put a propane heater close to the bed, hoping it would catch on fire.
When they wake up December 31st, there's no news of a fire. You know, in Bismarck, that's big news. It's all over the headlines. House fire in Bismarck. There was nothing like that. So at approximately 6:30 in the morning on December 31st, they went back to the house. The house wasn't burned down. So they repositioned the propane heater, and Nikki goes to work and calls Chad in sick to work, buying them some more time. Because, of course, the next day is New Year's Day, and businesses are closed that day. No one's going to miss Chad until January 2nd. Door sensors at the home showed that they were at the house at least one more time, trying to start that fire. The house still hadn't caught fire, so again, the fire was started on the furnace.
She said Chad and Nikki had married in 2016, and in 2018, Chad had taken out a $600,000 life insurance policy with Nikki as the sole beneficiary. And shortly after Chad's death, Nikki tried to cash in on it. She told the jury that once they hear the evidence, they will find Nikki guilty.
You'll be able to do what the deputies did, like I said, and piece together the timeline. And once you do, it will show that Nikki Sue Entzel and Earl Howard agreed to kill Chad Entzel, agreed to set the house on fire, to collect the insurance benefits, and to cover up the murder, and agreed to tamper with evidence by destroying or disposing of that second shotgun shell and setting the fire to cover up the evidence of the murder.
The defense declined to give an opening statement. Jeremy Francis is a firefighter and certified EMT with the Bismarck Fire Department. He testified that as he arrived at the scene, a woman came up to him and said she couldn't get inside the house and that she could see smoke.
So at that time, I told her to just wait right here. I'm going to go check it out. As I proceeded towards the house, the garage door was open, the light was on. So I walked up to the side entry door from the garage into the home, and I could see a light haze through the window of the door. The light was on in the washer and dryer room, so I could see a light haze. So at that point, my firefighter had come up with a tool. I checked the door, it was locked, so I was going to use the tool to break the door open and search the premises because there was an indication that there might be a fire occurring at this time.
Joseph Walker with the Burleigh County Sheriff's Department was a patrol deputy in January 2020. He testified that he was blocking off the road when he was approached by a man who said he was the brother of Nikki Entzel. He told him to park his vehicle off to the side and would be with him shortly. Nikki eventually came over and sat in her brother's car. Deputy Walker said he started making casual conversation with her as they waited.
What did she say about her relationship with her husband?
So after we kind of had a basic conversation, kind of like an icebreaker, she explained to me that her and her husband had a very abusive relationship, meaning he was abusive to her. She articulated that he would drink a lot, and from there they would play games. She clarified them as games. And when he would say that he wanted to play a game, and they were drinking, he would get very abusive. She proceeded to then show me photos of what she articulated as some of the photos from the abuse.
How was she able to show you a photo?
She had her cell phone with her.
How long did it take her to pull up that photo?
Oh, it was pretty quick. It was almost like she was prepared to tell me. And
do you recall what you saw in that photo?
I do. I believe it was a limb. I want to say it was an arm. Again, it's the middle of the night. It's dark out. When you have your night vision going and someone shows you a picture on a phone, and it's quite bright, it throws you off guard, especially I didn't know what I was looking at. But I believed it was an arm, and it did have bruising around it. It appeared to have bruising.
Could you tell whose arm it was?
No, not from the photo.
There wasn't anything in the background or any picture of a face along with that to let you know who it was or where it was taken?
No, it was strictly a limb. I believe I saw maybe a ring on the finger, not 100% sure.
Was there anything on the photo she showed you that indicated date or time the photo was taken?
Not from my recollection, no.
Did she elaborate on? Did she elaborate on the drinking?
Yes, she said it got to the point where she was going to leave, and that's where our conversation progressed. We were kind of back and forth. We would talk about lighthearted things, and then we would get a little bit deeper in our conversation. She said it had progressed so much that he was abusing her in front of the children. I didn't have children at the time, so I didn't understand. But I tried to be very sympathetic to that. And I offered my 2 cents in the equation, but she said she was getting to the point where she was going to leave and that she had a plan to flee the state, essentially.
He said she showed him homes in Texas and said she wanted a big kitchen to bake in. She also showed him a job interview she had set up for the 2nd or 3rd week of January. He testified that he asked her if there was anything she needed. She requested that he retrieve 2 Amazon boxes from the car in the driveway of the residence, along with her bottle of water from the car. She told him there were 2 cell phones in the boxes. He said Nikki had the same demeanor until certain scenarios or questions were brought up.
What scenarios or questions were brought up that changed her demeanor?
Referring back to the alleged abuse with her husband, that brought some emotion to it. I would say, if I may classify it as what I would consider anger. Other emotions that were brought into the equation, she was fielding some phone calls while she was sitting in my squad car in the front passenger seat. And we would be having, this stuck out in my mind, but we'd be having basic conversation about all sorts of things. And then she would flip a switch when she would take a call and she would become emotional. And it's hard for me to point and say that meant something because we all react different to trauma. And that's one thing I've learned in law enforcement is we all act differently in different situations. So it didn't stick out to me at that point.
He said he had her write out a detailed report of what happened from when she last saw her husband to them sitting there. She told him she and her husband were leasing their home. She explained that the furnace had ongoing issues and it was significantly cold outside. She said she had a couple of stationary heaters, but nothing to adequately heat the home. She told him she had been sleeping in her car for several days and then decided to get a hotel room. She said she last saw her husband on December 29th and last talked to him on December 30th.
Was there anything else you asked her about things in the house?
Yes. So some of the initial information that I got from the investigators on scene that there was a structure fire. They asked me to ask Nikki for consent to go through the home. Obviously, consent's great. So I asked her, I said, hey, is it okay if we search the home? And I articulated for the reasoning of we want to know if there's any firearms or anything like that when ammunition and other things are exposed to high heat. It's dangerous for the people inside the home and around the area. So that was one of the things I definitely asked her that was in the house.
And what was her response?
She said yes. And then immediately after that, if I may elaborate.
What else did she tell you about it?
She immediately told me she was not good with guns. And if I may, it was something that stuck out to me because I didn't ask about that. And it was right in my face right away. So I remember finding it quite odd.
He also recalled a conversation they had about video cameras.
So at the time, we're both sitting there. We're both kind of on our cell phones trying to kill time in between conversation. And I kept getting alerts on my cell phone because I had recently installed video cameras at my home. And I just casually said that, I said, man, I hate these alerts. I get them all the time. And then it defeats the purpose of having video cameras because then you don't look at the alerts because you're so annoyed by them. And I said, do you have video cameras? And she goes, yes. And then she goes, but if you walk up a certain way and approach the house a certain way, they don't go off. And I was like, well, that's odd.
There was nothing of substance found when investigators searched Nikki's car. aside from a box addressed to Earl Howard, a name no one working on the case was familiar with at the time. But investigators testified that there were many interesting items found inside the house. Whiskey bottles had been found on the floor of the room Chad was found in, and the ash from the fire coated the gun and Chad, a detail which forensics team suggested meant both were placed there prior to the fires starting. And the fires, 2 fires, looked a little out of place. The fire in the bedroom was patchy, a sign that suggested that perhaps some fluid was used to start it. And downstairs, a random fire in the furnace stayed contained. The next step would be to order an autopsy. One deputy soon learned that because investigators had initially suspected a suicide, medical examiners had said they wouldn't be doing one in this case, so they had to specially request one.
So after we had requested that autopsy, when it was denied, our next step was to turn him over to a funeral home. And so we had Metro come there, and we went through the process of removing him from a room and turning him over to Metro. In doing so, we rolled him over onto his side, and we observed additional injuries or wounds to his back.
How did that factor into your hypothesis that it may be a suicide?
There was a number of injuries to him because of how much decomposition had already taken place, as well as the fire, the soot that was in the room. It was difficult to determine with any kind of certainty one way or another. But the way that things were laid out in the room, the location of Mr. Entzel, the location of the shotgun, and then the multiple injuries to his body, we were not convinced that it was a suicide at that point.
Investigators had asked Nikki which hotel she had been staying at, and they obtained the security cameras and keycard access records to her room. They learned that Nikki wasn't the one technically renting out that room at the hotel. It was Earl Howard. Aaron Silbernagel, a former sergeant for the Burleigh County Sheriff's Department, was one of the first officers to have a one-on-one interview with Nikki Entzel at the scene. She immediately made him aware of Chad's drinking habits.
Now, going back to her relationship with Chad, did she say whether there was any infidelity in their marriage?
I did ask if she felt that he ever had a girlfriend or had a relationship outside of it, as she said he was going out so much and doing so much drinking. Nikki told me that she had asked him, and he said no, and that she didn't ever think he had.
So other than the fact that he was out of the house a lot, she didn't have any other basis to believe that he was having an affair?
No.
Nikki also told him all about the broken furnace and how uncomfortable it made the home.
Now, going back to the furnace, did she indicate what they would do when the furnace went out to try to heat the house, if they turned on the stove or used portable space heaters or anything like that?
Yes, I had asked. She had stated, telling me the story about how the home had gotten down to 58 degrees in the house that one night, that her and the kids and Chad had to stay in the vehicle in the driveway with the vehicle on to stay warm that night. To me, that didn't seem like the best answer, so I just asked if she had used electric heat or the stove. There were electric registers in the house that I had seen, or a space heater, or other forms of staying warm.
Did she say why they wouldn't go to a hotel that time?
No.
The jury was then played the long interview the sergeant conducted with Nikki on January 7th, 2020, at the Burleigh County Sheriff's Department. It lasted almost 7 hours. In it, Nikki was insistent that she knew nothing about Chad's death. But then she began to string together a slew of confusing tales. She told them that 3 weeks before the murder, Chad had followed her to the gym because he believed that she was cheating on him. Nikki said that Chad had been abusing her and that she had told friends about it. She said she called it drinking games, a code for his abuse. She admitted that she had made plans to leave Chad due to his drinking problems. She said that she and her friend Earl, who she said was also a friend of Chad's, went to the house so she could gather some belongings. She said she had been staying with Earl at a hotel and that Chad knew and had no objections to it. She told them that Chad was home when they got there, and tensions grew. Chad didn't want her moving out, and an argument ensued. She told the officers that another person was in the house aside from Chad and Earl, an unidentified male, who she said she had seen before but didn't know his name. She had both investigators stand up as she tried to pinpoint the height of this third person. Nikki recalled the person coming down the stairs of the home as the conversation between Chad, Earl, and herself got to be heated. She told investigators that Chad told the unknown male, "Hun, stop," as the person approached the group.
I handed you States Exhibits 71 and 72. Do you recognize those documents?
I do.
And what is Exhibit 71?
This is the drawing that Nikki drew out of the other individual.
And the other individual, are you talking about the person that was supposedly at the house that was calling Chad Hun?
Yes.
Investigators seemed to be puzzled by this story, pressing for more answers. Nikki told them that the argument grew more heated between Chad and Earl. Then, she said, she knew what had happened to Chad. She recalled being told to wait as Earl and Chad went to the back bedroom, and Earl eventually emerged from the room, saying Chad got shot inside. Investigators asked her, since Chad died on December 30th, who went back and set the fires that resulted in the 911 calls on January 2nd, 3 days later. Earl did, Nikki said. Earl had planned it all. Nikki told them that the following day, the same day she called Chad in sick for work, she returned to the house with Earl. His plan, she alleged, was to burn down the house and the evidence, to make it look like a mistake, an accidental death. A fire was started near the furnace, but didn't catch on. Earl allegedly returned to the home and staged the area around Chad's body, including placing a propane-fueled space heater next to the bed. But that's all Nikki would say. She refused to provide more information than that. The jury also heard testimony that Nikki Entzel and Earl Howard were indeed a full-blown couple and had been since sometime in 2019. They shared a bank account together, which had been opened in 2019. And when investigators looked at both Nikki and Earl's whereabouts during the first week of 2020, what they found was interesting, to say the least. They had paid for the hotel room with a card linked to their shared bank account, and a charge for a fire torch purchased from a local store appeared on that same bank statement, marked December 29th. Investigators also found a charge on the card for a renter's insurance policy for $26,000 that was set to take effect on December 27th, just a week shy of Chad's body being discovered. According to the insurance company, Nikki had called on January 3rd, just 1 day later, to talk about claiming insurance money through his employer, a policy that was later revealed to be worth over $100,000. Back in 2018, Chad had signed up for a life insurance policy for $600,000, for which Nikki was the sole beneficiary. On January 7th, the same day she sat for a long police interview, Nikki filed the claims with the company, but none of these claims were ever granted. Nikki's brother Matthew testified that he met up with Nikki and Earl shortly before the murder.
So the second occasion in December, when you met up at the McDonald's, did you actually meet Earl that time?
Yes.
And get introduced to him?
Yes, I did.
And what was his relationship with your sister?
I had no clue, and I did not want to know, really.
So did she say anything at that time about what problems she was having with Chad?
She said they were having problems with their relationship. She said that he abused her, but I didn't see no signs. But that's what I was told.
A friend of Nikki's, Michelle Mundy, testified that she never saw Chad be abusive or violent during the time she knew the couple.
And when you saw them, did you see them together?
Yes.
Did you ever notice any problems between the two of them?
No.
On the occasions that you did socialize with Chad, was he drinking?
Yes, a couple of times.
Was he intoxicated?
No.
Did you ever see a change in his mood or behavior after he'd been drinking?
No.
But she said Nikki did tell her that she was having problems with Chad, starting about a year prior to his death, and that she saw pictures of Nikki with bruises, pictures Nikki would text her.
What kind of issues did she say they were having?
Arguments at first. And then she was telling me about the drunk games or the drinking game. And I seen pictures that she had bruises on her.
Did she explain to you what the drinking games were?
Yes.
What did she say they were?
They were, he would be drinking and he would ask her to do something. If not, she would be punished either verbally or hit.
When did she say that, or when did she first tell you about these drinking games?
Terrible with dates. Probably 6 months before.
Before Chad died?
Yes.
You said she would show you pictures of bruises?
Yes.
Was there anything on the pictures that you could tell who the person was in the pictures?
No.
So what would the pictures be of?
I seen some, if I remember correctly, on her leg where she said that she'd fallen because Chad had pushed her. I'd seen pictures of bruises on her arms. And she sent me one of a black eye.
She testified that Nikki said she got a bruise on her leg after Chad had pushed her and she fell, and she got a black eye from Chad hitting her. A bruise on her arm was also attributed to abuse by Chad. She confirmed that Nikki, at the time of Chad's death, was actively looking to leave him for Earl. The state's final witness was Brian Thompson, deputy sheriff with the Burleigh County Sheriff's Department. He introduced an email from December 14th, 2019, from Earl to Nikki. There was an attachment to a YouTube video, which was played in court. In the video, a husband and wife are on the front porch of their home, arguing, the wife yelling. Suddenly, the wife sees a brand new car in the driveway with a big bow on top of it. The husband hands the wife the keys, and she excitedly runs and gets in the car, waving to him. Then the car explodes. The husband, still standing on the porch with a cup of coffee in his hand, calmly closes the door behind him. The words, "Merry Christmas, bitch," then light up the screen.
So why did you find that significant in your investigation?
At the time that we located that video, we were investigating a homicide that had occurred where it appeared attempts had been made to burn down the house. And then with the information that we had gathered with the oxyacetylene torch set never actually being used for its intended purpose, and for both of the tanks to be empty, I believe that there was an attempt made to actually cause a house to explode or to further the burning down of it.
During the span of 6 days, more than 40 witnesses took the stand for the prosecution. No witnesses would be called for the defense. In her closing arguments, prosecutor lawyer told the jury that despite the house being staged to look like a suicide, it was murder. She walked the jury through the timeline. She said that on December 31st, 2019, from 12:35 a.m. to 12:48 a.m., Nikki's login account accesses the security system at hers and Chad's home. She turns the privacy mode off and changes the camera settings multiple times. Then, at 1:02 a.m., they leave the hotel. At 1:11 a.m., the garage door sensor at Chad's and Nikki's home opens.
So despite all of their best efforts, they weren't able to turn off the entire security system. Cameras, yes, we don't have cameras. So I can't tell you exactly who enters that residence, but I can tell you that the circumstantial evidence says that when they leave the hotel at 1:02 a.m., after having mucked with the system so many times at 12:35, And then there is a door entry at 1:11 a.m. The circumstantial evidence tells you that it was Nikki and Earl.
She said at 2:56 a.m., the home's garage door closes.
There is nothing in between those two events. They get to the house, they go into the house through that garage door, and they leave the door open the entire 1 hour and 40 minutes they're there, if my math is correct. The entire time that they're there, that door stays open. And what did we ultimately learn happened during that time? Because we know that's when Chad died. And how do we know that? As I said before, when you look at those security logs, after 10:35 p.m., the only logs that are on the system are ones that we can attribute to Nikki Entzel and Earl Howard, and to the firefighters and law enforcement that responded after the 911 call. There is no other movement of that door. There's no other senses of that door. So we know that he died between 1 and 3 a.m. because somebody had to go into the house to kill him, and it was Nikki and Earl.
She said at 3:18 a.m., Nikki enters the hotel. About an hour later, Earl enters. She said she doesn't know why there's an hour difference. In the 5 o'clock hour, Nikki's account logs into the home security system again changing the camera settings. She said about a half hour later, Earl leaves the hotel again, and then the garage door sensor at the Entzel home goes off.
And if you remember Nikki's ultimate last statement to law enforcement, she said that he had gone back because he wanted to make sure. He had to know. When they had gone between 1 and 3 a.m., one of them shot Chad. I can't tell you which one. I don't know which one. But one of them did. Nikki blames Earl. She keeps saying, and if you listen to her interviews, all throughout her interviews, and even the very first night when Sergeant Silvernagle spoke to her, she doesn't know guns. She's not very good with guns. She can't even shoot a gun. That was from the very beginning. Talk about distancing yourself from something.
At 7:57 a.m., Nikki then calls Chad in sick to work. Prosecutor Lawyer pointed out that in the days after Chad's death, Nikki called Earl multiple times.
But all of this shows, along with all of the other evidence that we have presented, shows that there was a plan, and she admitted that there was a plan for them to kill Chad, file the insurance, and move to Texas together and live happily ever after. The plan consisted of shooting Chad, starting the house on fire to destroy any evidence, to collect on the insurance, and to stage the scene and remove evidence to make it look like a suicide. So that one, the evidence would be destroyed and law enforcement wouldn't know what happened. And two, so that they could live happily ever after in Texas.
In his closing arguments, Nikki's attorney, Thomas Glass, told the jury that the state put forth a lot of inference, speculation, and innuendo. But he said the biggest, most important piece of the case is missing: Earl.
Where is Earl Howard? I never seen him take the stand. Why not? Why is a big question. It's unanswered. Unanswered questions raise doubt. A lot of doubt.
He told the jury that they agree that Chad was murdered, that there was arson, and that Nikki was having an affair. We're not denying any of that, he said, but there's no evidence there was any plan beforehand.
We got Nikki's phones, we got her emails, we got Chad. Was there any mention of a plan or an agreement to kill Chad Entzel? Even in the interview, the only interview we got about it, because we don't know what Earl would have said. It's just interesting that he's not here. Why? Where he's going to say there was no plan to murder Chad? I don't know. All we do know is that during the interview, Nikki tells law enforcement that Earl stated to her, the less you know, the better. That doesn't sound like a plan or an agreement to me. The less you know, the better.
He said they don't have the biggest piece of the puzzle to tell them what happened.
An alleged co-conspirator You would think that would be the most important witness that you could put on the stand. He's not here. He hasn't testified to nothing. They used a lot of inference, speculation, innuendo. Earl did this, Earl did that. We got this, we got that. He's invisible. They know where he's at. For some reason they didn't think it was important to bring him into court as an alleged co-conspirator. Why? Why? That's the question. Why raises doubt? Reasonable doubt.
He told the jury that if they can't resolve that question why, they should vote to acquit. After just 2 hours of deliberations, a jury found Nikki Entzel guilty on all charges. Guilty of conspiring to kill her husband, conspiracy to commit arson, and conspiracy to tamper with evidence. A sentencing date has yet to be set. The judge has ordered a pre-sentence investigation that will look into Nikki's legal and social background beforehand. And what about Earl Howard? Well, he was charged with the same charges as Nikki, at least initially. He led police on a chase before he was caught on the Blue Water Bridge between Port Huron, Michigan, and Ontario. He was on his way to Canada. He was arrested by Border Patrol and taken into custody without issue and waived extradition. But the state eventually dismissed the murder charge against Earl. After Nikki alleged that he was the one who had pulled the trigger, forensic evidence on the gun couldn't reveal who had fired it. But 2 days prior to his trial on the other charges, Earl decided to plead guilty. His plea agreement gave him a 25-year prison term instead of a life sentence. At his sentencing in February 2022, he was given 21 years, after which he will be eligible for parole. As you heard, he did not testify in Nikki's trial. We heard a lot about the court case against Nikki Entzel in this episode, but I wanted to take a moment and talk about Chad Entzel, the victim in this case. According to his obituary, Chad coached Little League, played golf, enjoyed shooting darts and being a part of a bowling league. He also enjoyed racing. He was a wonderful son, brother, uncle, friend, and husband. After the verdict, Chad's family, who was in court every day of the trial, spoke with reporters and said Chad wasn't who Nikki portrayed him to be. Quote, "He was so kind, didn't have a bad word to say about anybody, always willing to give a helping hand. His sister called him her first friend." And that's all for this episode. As always, I'd love to know what you think about this case. You can let me know by joining the conversation on Instagram @CourtJunkie, by tweeting me @CourtJunkiePod, or by emailing me at podcast@CourtJunkie.com. This episode was researched and written by Law and Crime staff. If you'd like to hear these episodes without the ads or listen to additional Court Junkie bonus episodes, check out my Patreon options at CourtJunkie.com/support. And Civil, our new podcast covering fascinating civil cases, is now out. Our latest episode was released last week and is about someone who is wrongfully accused of a heinous crime. Will they find justice through the civil courts? Subscribe to Civil on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. New episodes will be released every other Wednesday. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.